Hello everybody, we're back with the 1959 Evinrude Fastwin 18 horse again. Now we are getting ready to go back together with it. The next step is replacing the carburetor. We've rebuilt the carburetor and it's time to put it back on. These fuel lines and air lines are going to be replaced. We got to replace these. These are look to be original. They're getting brittle and old and cracked and stuff. So the first thing we're going to do is replace the fuel lines that we can. The air line needs to be replaced. It goes from the intake manifold. That's these motors. 59 was the last year to use the pressure system. So this is the dual line tank. This side is the air pump. It actually has a pair of check valves in the intake manifold and uses the crankcase pulses to activate those check valves and pump positive pressure through this hose out this side of the fitting, which pumps pressure into the gas tank and then pushes the fuel back from the gas tank into this line, which then comes up, goes into the fuel filter, out the fuel filter and into the carburetor. So well, we can at this point, with the carburetor still off, we have better access to replace this air line over here and the fuel, and the fuel line for that matter, because we got to put the bracket back on that holds the starter, and that stuff will be in the way. So we're going to start by putting the new fuel line on that goes from the fitting to the filter, and then we'll put everything else on, put the starter on, put the carburetor on, and then we'll be able to run the fuel line from here to the carb. Alright, let's get started. Grab my wrench. Got to take the fuel fitting off. A bunch of oil and dirt and gunk underneath it too, so while we've got it apart, we'll kind of clean that up a little bit. There's a little 1/4-20 hex head under here that holds that fitting down. Okay, there's a screw. Set that aside. Grab a pair of pliers. Step across here. Gonna take this clamp, hose clamp off, or try. I know this hose will just break if I pull it. There. Alright, pull the fitting up, work these hoses through the hole in the cowl, lower pan. There's that. Still got that clamp and a bit of hose on here. It'd help if I had the right pliers for these clamps. I got a pair somewhere, but I don't feel like going for them. Alright. Got that clamp off of there. Get the rest of this hose off. Alright. This has the same little brass ring clamps on it as the other hoses did. Those are the original clamps. Pry them open with a screwdriver. pull them off, set those aside. I'm going to use zip ties on this when I put it back together. I keep those clamps in case I want to use them on a full restoration or something, but most of my motors I just use zip ties on, and they work well. A little WD-40 helps kind of cut that greasy stuff, clean that up a bit. That way it doesn't look so bad underneath the hoses when we put the fuel fitting back on. Grab my fuel line here. This is 3/16. Just low pressure rubber fuel line. That's the air line, short one. And this is the inlet side of the fuel filter. Use the old one to give me roughly a length. Give myself a little extra, I can always trim it. Set the rest of that aside. We'll need that when we get the carburetor mounted. Clean this out underneath in the pan here a little bit so it's easier to see. Both of these hoses go through one hole down here. Might be easier to put them through from the inside on this one. Need a screwdriver. This is not the easiest motor to get the fuel lines back in, I'll tell you. There's that one. Okay. Now the fuel side. Okay. Now we'll take the airline and hook it onto the barb fitting. There's a barb fitting on the intake manifold here for the air pump. Probably going to need pliers to get a hold of that. These 59 and 60 bread box style Evinrude's got a lot of room underneath for working on things, but fuel line's a little cramped. Okay, got the airline on, and then the inlet side of the fuel filter is over here. Probably should take that fuel filter off and clean it real quick. I thought I did that, but I don't think I did now. So I'll take that screw out real quick and clean that out. Maybe. Tight one. All right. Get the bail off of there. Pop the glass out. It's just got a little bit of stuff in it. It isn't bad. Spray a little bit of carb cleaner in this. I won't use as much in the shop here, but do it over the trash can. There, the bowl's nice and clean. Take the filter body and spray some in the inlet over the trash can. Filter's flowing well. It's not plugged at all. Alright, we'll put the bowl back on. Put the bail back on. Tighten that up. And refasten that to the exhaust cover. There's a little alignment pin on the bottom to keep it square. You gotta make sure that's lined up with the hole. Alright. And then take the fuel line and plug it into the inlet side. Get our fitting. Kind of clean this up a little bit. Okay, set this in the little pocket that it gets mounted in so we can get our lengths right. And the air side is this side, closest to the rear of the motor. And this is our air line. So we should be okay once we plug that one in. I think that length got us pretty close judging from the old line. So let's plug in the fuel line here. Plug the air line into the other side. There we go. Make sure that fits back in the... Yep. No kinks in the lines. That one's plenty long. We may cut some back off of that. Alright, pop that out of there and we'll get a couple of zip ties. Use black zip ties so they're not as obvious. White ones work too, but try to put that just behind the barb on the barb fitting. Pull it as tight as I can get it. And then I've got one of these little zip tie tools. You get about 2 more clicks out of it and cuts it off flush. If I can get it to grab, there we go. 1, 2, cut flush. Turn that one down. Push this fitting back in that pocket down there. Put the screw back in it. Alright. Now we got to get our zip tie down here on the airline. I'm going to pull this one off and adjust the length a little, I believe. The other one's got to come across it. Just for fun, before I cut anything, I'm going to put the starter back on since I got this line out here. That way I got everything that's going to be in the way that it has to go around in place. Hook the positive wire back up. Don't need to tighten anything yet, but it's easier to do when it's out here. Go through the ground wire and into the block. Okay. Now we got to get our little clamp that holds the throttle linkage on. Take the back piece, put it in the little collar there. Push against that, take the front piece, and you gotta take that screw out. Push the two halves together, and then line up the hole. Okay. Get one side snugged up. Take the other screw and put in the other side. Tighten those up. Alright. I'm going to let that hang until we get the carburetor mounted. And then we'll make sure we got enough hose for both of them. turn this around over this way. And I just realized I did something I shouldn't have done. I'm going to have to loosen that starter again and put the carburetor in place. I usually don't work on electric starts, so some of these things I've forgotten since the last one I worked on. I gotta adjust the solenoid here. When I put it back together, I didn't put the terminal in the right place. Alright. That appears to be correct. I take the needle out. Take the packing nut out. Pull the starter. Let me see if I can turn this around so you can see what I'm doing. Pull this starter aside. I think I can get it in here. There we go. Okay. Alright. Put the screw back in the solenoid wire, and then fasten that to